Hi everyone, this is going to be a tutorial on Coptic stitch binding for a junk journal. It differs, or so I've found when I've been making them, it differs from a normal Coptic binding in as much as we tend to, in junk journals, put loads and loads of decoration and all the rest of it in there, and it tends to make them a bit either top or bottom heavy. What I've got here are 7 signatures, and each signature's got about 6 pages plus all the other bits that you'd normally put in, like book pages, and I just have, so there's a bit of Tim Holtz, there's some book pages, all this sort of thing in there. And it's, if I sandwich it, I've got 2 boards which I've made as my covers. So if I sandwich it between the 2, I will show you what I mean. When you sandwich them together, now Coptic stitching is supposed to be quite tight, that's what keeps it in place. So down the bottom, that's great, and then up the top, because I haven't got that much in the way of ephemera up there, if you were to put it at a tight tension, you'd have a really weird shaped book. So what I use are tapes to try and give it a bit of spacing. So we'll have an open spine, and then these, there will be 3 of these in place which I will stitch to. So then, sorry about this, you will have, hopefully, a reasonably well-shaped book at the end of it. The other thing that I try and do now that I've found is I add lots of tags at the top. So most of my pockets, or tuck spots, or whatever you want to call them, are at the top of the book, which will also help with all the extra bulk to sort of compensate for all the bulk that you've got at the bottom. Right, so we will begin. Right, now we've spoken about the difference in height, so you're aware to perhaps try and spread out the pockets just a little. It will make your life a bit easier. We need to make a template for punching. I've taken a piece of paper, let's move that out of the way, which I've used, I cut off from, I've cut a piece out of a piece of scrap that I've got, as you can tell, from my biggest pages, which for me are the cream pages that I use. And I've marked, well, I folded down the centre line, and then I've marked 3/4 inch from the top and the bottom, so that gives you enough headroom and enough room at the base to clear the stitching, because obviously all this is going to be on show, so it needs to look neater, as neat as you can get it. And then I've taken my 3 pieces of tape. Now my tape is 1 inch wide. I've coloured it using the same paint that I use for the covers. And I cut it originally 6 inches long, each strip, but it shrunk. So I've ended up, I think there's about 5 3/4, I think. Yeah, by the time I've trimmed it, got rid of the rough edges, just under 6. So first of all, find your centre point. So I folded it and folded it again and marked my centre point. So I've got a 3/4 inch from top and 3/4 inch from the bottom. I know my tape is 1 inch wide, so I've taken my ruler and I've marked 1/2 inch either side of my centre point. So I know that that's where my tape is going to be. Now, for me, I'm in the UK, I'm using A4 paper, which is 8 1/4. You're in the States, 8.5 inches, I think, is your standard size. So you may have to add a little bit on at the top and the bottom, but this is how I've done it. So I've got my inch, which is my middle one, my middle tape will be centered across there. Then I've left an inch, where are we? Yep. So I've left a gap. So I've marked it at an inch and an inch again. And then I've done the same at the bottom. Just so when you add your tapes on, they're going to look pleasing to the eye. Me, I can get a bit OCD with my symmetry. It's like, oh, my life, come on, Zoe, chill, ease. But there you go. This is what it's like. So as long as you like the way that that looks, that will be centered. That is your album as such. Your journal. Excuse me for leaning across. So when your cover's on, you're going to get that type of effect. And then I have to write on them because I get lost sometimes amongst this lot. So I've got Coptic stitch at the top, which is what like a kind of chain link stitch really. And then these two are where the tape will run. And that one. And that one. The pen's not working, and then I've had to write Coptic on the bottom, so I know what I'm doing. So that's a template. Then you need to mark the covers. So what I've done, I made one a few weeks ago and I punched the wrong side. And it was like, oh, you've got to be kidding. Start again. Complete waste of time. Easy way of marking out your covers. Take your template. You're only going to be sewing the cover on to the signatures in two places. So mark where you've got for your Coptic stitch, top and bottom. Mark centre. I use little eyelets because I like those. Punch out the holes. Centre your top, your front cover with it, making sure obviously it's the right way around. Get your pen and mark through the middle of the holes that you've done. Punch them, so at least you know they're the right ones. And then people have been asking me, oh, I can't use a crocodile. Yeah, I know the feeling. It's supposed to not take much of an effort. I've only used little eyelets on these simply because, I don't know if this light is getting a bit dodgy now. So a bit better. I've only used little eyelets. I have used the big ones before, but I think that these probably look a little neater and don't take away as much. I tend to flip mine over. Your crocodile pointy bit goes on the bit that will show. Make sure it's centered and squeeze. There's one. Make sure it'll spin nicely. Two. So now, top on top, I have my covers ready to stitch on. My template is marked. Thread. I use, with these exposed spine stitching where it's going to show, I like to use embroidery thread. Now this is what I can get in the UK, Anchor Pearl Cotton it's called. I have no idea if that's available anywhere else. This is the thread. It just shows really nicely on the books. Well, on the spine anyway. How much thread? 7 times the height of it's the height of your cover times however many signatures you've got. So I've got 7 signatures, so it's that times 7. So, you know, as your normal pamphlet stitch, it's a question of 1, 2, etc, etc, until you get to however many signatures you've got. Right, and then it is a question of, I haven't lined these up yet, which I've got to do. Lining these up, punching out your holes like that. I have to admit, I splashed out a couple of months ago. This was on special offer because a punching block, it got a bit of damage on the end. Don't know, it was a UK company on Etsy, and I thought, I'll try that, because mine gave up the ghost. I think I bashed it around too much. And punching your holes. So I will go away and do these, and then I will come back and we will start the stitching. Right, actually, no, backtrack. The tape. In a normal, when you'd make a book normally, you'd these tapes, you'd sew to tape, and you'd put this, so imagine that was your table. You'd tape it to your table, so you've got a solid base, and then you're able to stitch around it, and that's how you make your normal case binding on a book. I've marked out, I've taken my my template top. I've lined it back up with the holes that I've already punched. This is the back cover for me. I prefer to start from the bottom and work my way up, whichever way suits you. I've taken my template and I've marked where my ribbons are going, where my tape is going to go. So in between there, and that one. So I've marked them, and then I've just, for my own personal benefit, been a bit forgetful. And then I will I use E6000 for this because it provides a brilliant grip. So I will glue that onto there just to provide a good base on which to sew my signatures onto. So it's nice and firm. It doesn't pull away. And what you're trying to do is line it up with there, and that's roughly where you need the glue to come to. There will be a gap, but then there's going to be a gap anyway because of that. Now, if you're worried about it showing through, there are two ways of doing it. I personally glue mine on underneath, and then I will fit my cover paper over the top like that. There is a little bit there. So if I put all three in, 1, 2, 3. I don't think that's impossible. I don't think that looks bad. And indeed, that this is how I do it. If you're at all worried, you can make a feature of them, cut the tape longer, in which case put your end papers on first and then put your tapes over the top. I've tried it that way, but I just think this is neater. Just gives perhaps a more finished look. Okay, it takes a bit more gluing. It's a little bit harder work, but if you're going to the trouble of doing an open spine book like this, then you might as well go the extra step and just make it, perhaps, I don't know. Personal choice. I keep getting told off for telling you what I like. So personal choice. Right, I will go and line my papers up, punch holes, glue these down, and then I will come back and we will carry on with the stitching. Enough of the boring bits. Okay, see you in a moment. Right, we're back. So I have glued on my tapes onto the back cover. Yep, just checking. And then I'm just going to check that my holes, oh, where are we, line up. So there we go. Yep, I can see that everything is right. So first things first, make a knot. Now, okay, I might be teaching my granny to suck eggs, but if I am, I apologise. Catch hold of the thread, 1, 2, 3 times around the needle, and then very carefully just pull it to the end, and we have a knot. Where are we? Sorry if I keep going out of focus. So we have a knot. Now I just need to trim this off. There. So starting off with the centre, I've punched all my signatures and I've just got them clipped to hold them in place. I start at the top, possibly. So we're going through the first hole. Oops, scissors in the way. So pull it through. And then sort of lining it up roughly with your, for me, the back cover. Go through there, so through the hole that you've made. This is the only problem with having such long thread. Bring it round. Now I like to go round my thread. Oops. Trying to keep it roughly aligned, and then we go back. If I can find the centre. We go back into the centre hole. Oh, I have. Trying to avoid the knot that you've made. So that is the first bit caught onto the cover. So then it's very much like a plain running stitch. So through the next one. Round the back of the tape, so you're catching the back of the tape, and then through the next hole. Oh, there we go. And then that is the first stitch, and then it's in and out, catching the tapes all the way down. So I'll go through and do these. So I apologise if I'm all out of focus. So, round the back of the tape. Sorry folks, I just find it so much easier to do this hanging off the edge of the table. Oh, one of my hairs, don't want that in there. Just making sure the tension's okay. And then back through. So it literally is just a running stitch from top to bottom with the Coptic stitch at the two ends. So far we've got where it's attached to the cover, and then we've got these 3 stitches. Where are we? There we go. These 3 stitches that run top to bottom. So then back through to the bottom hole. And then the same again for, so back through, ooh, where am I? There we go. Back through the hole in the cover. And then what we need to do, there we go. So that, then back through into the hole that we've just come out of. So back through into the bottom hole. Make sure it's tight enough for what you want. There we go. Right, so that is the first row of stitching. I do apologise for waving this around. I'm trying to see the... Then when we get here, we need to knot it off. Just checking, yeah, that I've got it the right way around. That would be awkward. So I am. So I've pulled it underneath, and now I'm going to go back through with that one. Get rid of that little bit. Get rid of that now. And I'm just going to pull that tight. That's it. And then back through the same hole again. There we go. And then for the second signature, oh, slightly bigger clip. Let's swap that one over. Let's try this. So for this one, second signature, in through the bottom hole. This is where I find I haven't got my holes lined up, so there we go. Oops. And we repeat this process. Now this is where the fun starts, because we've got to try and keep them at an even tension. Too tight and it will start ripping the hole, too loose and it will start falling apart. So that looks about right at the bottom. And then we'll worry about that one when we get to the very top. So that's the bottom. Once I've got the hang of this, it's like with anything, it becomes as easy as pamphlet stitch. Honestly, I look like I'm making a right hash of it, but if I could do it, anyone can do it. That's nice and tight. So I really am trying to keep this in focus. Back through that one. And then back up. So making sure all the time that you've got that thread caught. There. Back through the middle. That's the only problem with having my insistence on having clips to hold everything together. But if I don't, I really mess up. So. Out through that one. And then out through the top. So, got 2 signatures in. That's what they look like so far. You can always adjust these as you're going along just by pulling the threads. And then for the top of the second and the other ones, top and bottom actually, where are we? There we go. What we do is you go round the back of the stitch of the signature below. And then, so when we come to do the third one, let's get rid of that. So this one, will now go into, now you've gone, come out the top, you've gone round the back of that stitch, there, so you've gone round the back of this stitch, pulled it through, and then you just start sewing into the next signature. So you start at the top of one, at the bottom of the other, and you just keep going all the way through. And let's put that one through. That's really, bear with me a moment. Just get rid of this clip. Swap it for a small one. Right, now the only thing you have to watch with the ones at the top is that they are the same width apart as the ones at the bottom, and because I've used a really dark paper, and that then will go across. Just to try and keep your signatures fairly level. So if we go into this one, I've hold that a bit tight, so loosen it off just a touch so that you can see that the line level. Oh well, you're having a good preview of this new book. So if anything, the actual stitching itself can be a little easier than pamphlet stitch. You just got to remember to catch the tapes. Well, I suppose you might be able to thread them through after. I don't know, I've never tried it that way. And then into the last hole at the bottom. We have 3 signatures, if I get that in the middle. So for this one we go underneath the previous one. This is where I need to lie it down because I just want to try and square them off a bit. Pull it up and then it will go. We will then start in the bottom of the next signature. So there we have it. That I will film the rest of it, and you can, if you're bored by now, I don't blame you, and give this a go. It is it's different. It certainly looks the part, I think. So squish that down a bit and then take it into the centre. So, you always get one, don't you, that doesn't want to play ball. And the best of it is I can edit this out if I need to. If I sound like I'm Russian, it's because I moved, youngest daughter joined the army, and which enabled me then to be promoted so I can come back into the house rather than freezing to death in the shed. But she's come home on leave for Christmas. She's just walked in about 36 hours early. Oh, what are you doing in my room? So I am ever so slightly rushing. And then back through the top one again. So, right, that's signature number 4 in, and that's how it's looking so far. Yep, you can always go through and make a couple of adjustments if you need to, like that. Probably looks a little loose, so just pull it through. You do need to do this on the signature that you've just done, otherwise, God, I ended up swearing. That's better. There we go. So, the end of the signatures, it is literally just back through. And then over for the next one. Maybe not. Bear with me off camera just for a moment while I flick it through. There we go. And then just checking attention's right. So when that's released, look about the same. Yep. So. I'm literally just going in and out as in a running stitch. I think most of us learnt at school. Although I know my sewing teacher would be horrified at all these tails and stuff, that all these bits that we leave on. Let's get rid of that clip. This kit, by the way, is newest one in my shop. Pink flowers, vintage flowers. I thought that's no good in having one if you don't make it up as into something yourself, is it? So I thought it'd be perfect for this open spine one. So back under the stitch, so under the previous signature, square it off. That's a bit loose, so just pull this a bit tighter. That's one up. So 2 more to go. 5 down, 2 to go. So we've gone through the bottom of that one, and up into this one. This is where I always wonder, have I got enough thread? You can always, like that thread here was a little puckered up, but it's easy enough just to straighten up. Yeah, they all seem nice. Get rid of the clip, check that. So I'm just checking that that's okay and that one's okay. That looks pretty good. So through that one. And then last signature. So I've gone through the bottom one, or below the through the thread on the bottom, the previous signature, and then oh, excuse me. Right, now then for this one, I'm going to have to turn it round. Sorry, folks. Now that's got to go on the top of that. Don't need to make making sure you've got your tension right, because there's no coming back from this one unless you want to do a lot of unpicking. So like that, a lot of unpicking. The idea being is to knot it off down here. So that looks, yep, that's fine, I'm happy with that. And then we need to go back through the hole. And again. So the cover goes, I'm gonna, sorry folks, camera just shut off then for some unknown reason. So what we've got then is the right kind of tension. The bottom one we'll sort out when we get down to it. So if we just pull that one across a bit, there we go, like that. With this, let's just make sure that that's in the right place. Yep, because that one will slide up a bit. And then by the time we've got the bottom ones on, that you can actually adjust these, which I found very useful. Is how This is how it will look when it's all sewn together. This is why I like the tapes. I don't think Coptic stitch would hold, or any kind of stitch would just hold this open spine. It's too much weight in a junk journal rather than just a normal pamphlet stitch book. Us being us, we really like our embellishments. Right, so we go back through this one. Now this is where it gets a bit more interesting, because I am trying to, so you're coming over the top and you're going back into this one, but you've got the cover on the top as well now. So let me find where that tape is, pull that through. This is a bit I find fiddly, but oh blimey, just pulled the thread out. These things are brilliant, these little, whatever they're called, embroidery things. Threading aids. Oh, except I've done that wrong. Push that through. There we go. As I said. Do you know what? I can always edit that out, can't I? Oh, the beauty of being your own video editor. Some people use Photoshop to make themselves look wonderful. Me, I use Photoshop to edit out all my mistakes when I'm doing this stuff. But honestly, I make so many mistakes. You always have one signature that won't go through. Just won't play ball. There we go. I won't be beaten. Sorry, I am trying to keep this in focus. Sometimes it becomes me versus a book. I don't like losing. Right, so to finish off, I'm out through the last hole. I will come underneath this one, up through the cover, back down into to can't see it. There it is. And then back down into the last signature. Okay, I can live with that for the moment. I just need to check that that sort of hangs right. Hey, hey. And then we finish off with a knot and we are done. Apart from, so let's just get that finished off. Okay, this is where I need my needle threaded again. So for future reference, whereas I've gone height of the journal times the number of signatures, perhaps I need to amend that to read plus number of signatures plus a half, because that is a little bit tighter than I'm happy with. Right, yep. So underneath, let's get rid of this clip. So through. So I should have gone through to make a loop. So through that one, make a loop, pull it through, okay, and knot it off. And that's that done. I don't cut it off just in case I've made a mistake and I need to undo it and go back and redo it. But that is our finished binding. Oh, blimey. I will get the hang of this camera at some point. So I will trim that piece off and then the tapes. So it's a question of gluing down. Like I say, I use, bear with me, this E6000. It's brilliant. It does the job perfectly. So those will be glued onto there. Not right to the edge. As you can see on this one, there's a bit of a gap going on. I've left about a 1/4 of an inch gap on the sides, simply because it pulls, and if you try and do it right to the edge, yeah, it just pulls free and it just makes it look a real mess. So that is the binding for this this book. Well, it's my version of this binding. What I forgot to say was, because the spine's on show, I did actually distress all the edges, so including the spine. So there we go. Hope it's been of some benefit to people. I will finish this off and I'll come back with a full run through of it, although you've had a pretty good look at the moment, but I will come back with a run through. Speak to you later, bye.